Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Yesterday we tried out Greninja on a bit of a meme team and it performed really well. So today I wanted to try and create a really strong team around it. The thing about Greninja is it's very difficult to cover for all of its weaknesses in grass, electric, fairy and fighting. So what I've chosen to do is I've chosen two Pokemon that are really good in the Ultra League meta currently, and that also covers for its most common weaknesses, and then I've simply just accepted that there are a few core breakers to the team. Overall the team performed very well. I did definitely go positive using it, so let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we have a very early yikes in this video as we lead into a Shadow Machamp, and it gets even worse as they counter swap a Pidgeot onto our safe swap Giratina. I'm using Giratina as a safe swap even though I think Shadow Charizard is the better safe swap, especially with the fear of facing a Steelix, because Shadow Charizard is also the better closer. So if we lose the lead and we lose the safe swap, we can try and set up Shadow Charizard for a sweep in the end game, especially if we're lucky enough to grab a shield from something like a Pidgeot, because they were afraid of the first ancient power. They wanted to start debuffing us before taking a potential ancient power, I am assuming. But we grab a shield and now I'm thinking maybe we can just let the Giratina go, but if we let the Giratina go completely, they're just gonna farm us all the way down, come out with enough energy to where they can take out Greninja and also come out with energy for Charizard to get a perma debuff onto our Charizard with the Feather Dance. So I'm actually considering swapping back out of the Greninja, saving some energy on the Giratina. What I really should do is save 2 Dragon Claws on Giratina as they throw this third Feather Dance into Giratina. Save 2 Dragon Claws and then swap out. What I actually do is I end up throwing 1 Dragon Claw. I made up my mind a little bit too late, and then we swap into the Greninja, saving 1 move. They go for a move on the Pidgeot onto Greninja. Greninja is gonna face Machamp. We're just gonna let this Feather Dance go, and then we're hoping the Machamp wants to throw energy into Greninja, because if they farm Greninja all the way down, come out with energy, they're gonna be able to threaten the Charizard a lot. But as it is, they throw all of their energy into Greninja, so now we can bring in the Charizard onto the Switch Lock Machamp with no energy, and now we can farm it all the way down with Charizard. And all of a sudden, the match looked very bad, but now it's actually looking pretty good as they bring back in the Pidgeot. We farm up to 96 energy, and then we go for the Dragon Claw into the Pidgeot, which takes out the Pidgeot in the back. We're triple hard countered this game as they bring a Pelipper into Charizard. One of the worst things we could have seen, but we have a lot of energy on Charizard. We go for the Dragon Claw bait. Blast Burn is more energy efficient even though it is resisted, and then we go for another Dragon Claw bait into the Pelipper. We grab the shield. We can make it to the Blast Burn on 1 HP. They go for the wing attack down, but this Blast Burn, even though it's resisted, takes out the Pelipper. And even though we were triple hard countered, we still end up winning that game. Next game, into a very neutral lead, into a Shadow Skuntank. We can make it to a Hydro Cannon before they make it to a move. Of course, Greninja is incredibly spammy. As we go for the first Hydro Cannon, which grabs a shield from the Skuntank, and now they can make it to a move. They overfarm a little bit, and then they try to catch onto a Tapu Fini. The plan with this team is a little bit weak to Tapu Fini. If you face it on the lead, you can just stay in with Greninja, win the 2-shield scenario, which you're gonna see later on. If they save swap it, I really don't want to expend energy onto it with Greninja if I don't have to, but also the Skuntank has a lot of energy, so I don't want to start shielding moves from the Tapu Fini. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna send in my Sponge, which in this on this team is Giratina. A strategy that I like to apply a lot is just have a Pokemon that is basically just an extra shield, which I think Giratina is very good at doing exactly that. They go for another serve into Giratina. Now they don't have a lot of energy. We have to expend energy in order to take them out with Greninja, but if we bring in the Charizard, we can farm them down before they make it to a move, come out with energy on Charizard as well. We also have energy on Greninja as they bring in the Skuntank. We go for the Blast Burn on the CMP on the second crunch. It takes 7 then 6 for the crunches, and they shield up their Skuntank. I'm thinking they might be weak to Charizard in the back. So what I'm gonna do is I want to save energy on both Charizard and Greninja because I don't know which one will be the better closer in the end game. So I save a Blast Burn, swap into the Greninja that already has a lot of energy, take out the Skuntank with a Hydro Cannon, and now we have energy everywhere. So depending on what's in the back, we can potentially take them out with either Greninja or Charizard, because Charizard is pretty much always going to win CMP against pretty much everything. So we will get off that Blast Burn as we go for a Hydro Cannon into the Virizion. We get to the Blast Burn as well on the CMP type with the Charizard. They did have a move. Blast Burn takes out the Virizion, and that is a very good game once again. Next game, we lead into a Tapu Fini. Just whisper it quietly. A good lead for Greninja. And no, I am not joking. This is actually a good lead. You do lose to once and the 0 shield scenarios if they go Moonblast, but even if Tapu Fini baits twice, Greninja still wins the 2-shield scenario against Tapu Fini. So we're just gonna start throwing these Hydro Cannons. They are resisted, but 3 of them with the Water Shurikens adding up are actually enough to take out Tapu Fini as they go for a bait with the Surf. And now they still should be a little bit away from the Moonblast, so we go for the next Hydro Cannon on the CMP, on the Moonblast. It takes 20 turns for the Moonblast, 14 for the first Surf, so yeah, they should be at 7 turns now, so 4 Water Shurikens away from the next Moonblast. So when they throw here, this cannot be a Moonblast, so we can just let this Surf go and then overfarm up to 100 energy with Greninja, and at this point they are in Night Slash range, so we can go for the Night Slash to take out the Tapu Fini, come up with a lot of energy. They bring in the Registeel, and I don't really like the play that I make here because I'm leaving my Greninja. Yes, we have a lot of energy in Greninja, we can bring in our Sponge to take some energy hopefully from this Registeel, but also I'm leaving the Greninja so low that if they have something with fast move damage, they're gonna be able to take me out, as in I will get off 1 move. But if 1 fast move is enough to take out Greninja, I'm only getting off 1 move even though I have so much energy. And also, if they load up to a move, even if they lose CMP, which pretty much everything will to Greninja, they can just CMP me on the first move, and then I still only get off 1. So I would have liked, looking back at it, to go for 1 Hydro Cannon into the Registeel before swapping, to not leave myself so low with that much energy. It's a little bit risky as they go for the Dragon Claw to take us out. I'm thinking that 1 move from Registeel is enough to take out Charizard. If I go for the Night Slash into the Giratina, I just don't think I can win the game with Charizard. I need energy on the Charizard, so I had to risk it, bringing the Charizard onto the Giratina, hoping that they didn't have Ancient Power. We go for the Blast Burn into the Registeel. They let it go. I think we would have made it to another one before they made it to another or to a Zap Cannon because they were dry. So they let it go, we farm them down, we get to the Dragon Claw on the Giratina, we make it to the Night Slash on the Greninja as well, and this will take out the Giratina, and that is another very good game. Next game, bad lead into Golisopod, especially if they have Excessor. We're just gonna swap out. We have 2 better responses in the back, so swap out into Giratina. These Shadow Claws aren't doing super effective damage, but all of the charge moves, except if they have Aerial Ace, which doesn't do that much damage either, are resisted on Giratina. They go for a Liquidation, and then they swap into their Greninja. And because they did a little bit of damage, they should be able to win this. Giratina Altered actually wins the 2-shield scenario against Greninja, unless they get the boost, of course, as they can make it to the back-to-back Night Slash. Takes 3 for the first, 2 for the second, so they aren't the back-to-back, but they're gonna have to throw the second one immediately if they want to get it off without having to expend the shield. They don't throw it immediately, we make it to the Dragon Claw. Now we can force a shield from the Greninja. They can do 1 more Water Shuriken and then throw a Night Slash into Giratina. We're just gonna let it go. We have a shield advantage now, we can bring in the Greninja. Of course Greninja does wall Greninja completely, so we can't take any move that they throw here. They should probably go for the Hydro Cannon here, because I mean, I was never gonna shield that, but as they go for the Night Slash, there should still be 1 Water Shuriken away from the Hydro Cannon, so we can go for a Night Slash of our own, and then take them out. We get the boost, but I saw it too late, so we swap out into Charizard to just set up Charizard for the sweep with a 1 shield advantage. We go for the Blast Burn, puts them into a range where they're only gonna get off 1 move on the Charizard. They realize the game is over, so they concede the match. Next game, kind of a bad lead into a Greedent, but we have to stay in, because it's an absolutely horrible matchup for Giratina Altered, especially when you're using Shadow Claw, or when you're using Shadow Claw. So we can let the first Body Slam go green, being one of the only Pokemon that is faster than the Greninja, and then make it to a Hydro Cannon. 2 Hydro Cannons won't quite be enough to take out Greedent, and because Greedent does outpace to 3 moves, they will be able to take this matchup, but we can make it to another Hydro Cannon before they make it to the next Body Slam. So we're either gonna bring them very low or grab a shield advantage, which is absolutely fine by me. We're gonna put them into farm range or grab a shield advantage. We put them into farm range. Of course, takes 4 Mudshot for the Greedent to get to a Body Slam, so we can bring in the Charizard, hope to farm them down before they get there. We can't, so we sack the Giratina onto the Body Slam, or we catch the Body Slam onto Giratina. This is of course not very effective, and then they bring in an Escavalier. You can make an argument that revealing the entire team is not quite worth it. I think revealing the entire team is more worth it than taking a Body Slam on Charizard, like taking the Body Slam on Giratina and making that catch, revealing the entire team, giving the opponent a lot of information. I don't think the information is that valuable, as I don't throw another Shadow Sneak knowing that it won't be quite enough to take them out before they get to another drill run. So instead I'm gonna overfarm a lot. It takes 7, then 6, then 7, so we can farm up to almost 100 energy with the Giratina, then go for the Dragon Claw to take out this Cavalier, come out with a lot of energy. They have a Charizard in the back. We don't want them to catch on that very low health Greedent that they still have, so we're waiting a turn before throwing the Dragon Claw, and then we're once again gonna wait a turn to make sure we throw it in the middle of their wing attack, go for the next Dragon Claw. Now we don't want to get farmed down, so we bring in the Charizard, and we're up a shield. They know that they have to make a catch. They try to go for the catch with the Greedent, then they bring back in the Charizard. My only loose con is that I very badly just no-shield a Blast Burn. My opponent realizes that their only win con was that I for some reason tried to 2-shield flex on them, so they go straight for it, and then they concede the match. Next game, into a mirror against another Greninja. We go for the first Hydro Cannon. I kind of wanted to try and figure out who won CMP here, because that can be kind of big in mirror matches. It looks like 2 Hydro Cannons won't quite be enough to take out a Greninja, but it also looks like I have a little bit more HP than they do, and I'm also winning CMP against them. So we get off this Hydro Cannon, and again, it looked like they went into the yellow health before I did, so I think I can let this go and then farm them down before they get to another one. It takes 3 for the next one, so we go for the farm down, and our Greninja is just a lot better IV than theirs, so we get the full farm down, come up with a move in the back. It's a Tentacruel. We really want to keep switch advantage here to get Giratina onto the Tentacruel as we get another boost. I swear, the Night Slash boost just happens all the time. They bring in a Galarian Weezing, and this is actually not ideal as we bring in Charizard, because Galarian Weezing gets to 4 Brutal Swings at the exact same time as Charizard gets to 3 Blast Burns. So because they're 1 fast move ahead, they're going to be able to get to 3 moves before, or 4 moves, whereas they need to land 2, we only need to land 1 before we get to the 3 Blast Burns we need. And if they get through to my Giratina, I think they're gonna win the game, because then they still have enough health left to do a lot of damage to my Giratina. So in order to outpace them, I realized very quickly, I think my only win con is to go for a very risky bait in the middle of the game, and because they shielded up the Dragon Claw, we're gonna be able to outpace them to the Blast Burn. They try to catch it on Tentacruel, we save a Blast Burn on the Charizard. They should still be 2 Fairy Winds away from the Brutal Swing, very important to keep track of, and then they bring in Tentacruel. A lot of Tentacruels are running Blizzard these days, but Giratina is very bulky, so we can lift that Blizzard and then make it to another Dragon Claw. I just want to make sure that we can put it into a range where they don't have a mood for the Charizard, and we can either farm them down or not give them too much farm. So I'm looking at the switch timer after this charge move goes through. I don't want their Weezing to come in and get farm, so I'm just gonna burn the switch timer, because they still need 2 Fairy Winds. So by burning the switch timer, I know that I can bring in the Charizard afterwards, go for the Blast Burn into the Galarian Weezing, and this Blast Burn from Shadow Charizard takes out this Galarian Weezing, and that is another very good game. Next game, Core Breaker. Or is it? Is this actually a Core Breaker? They do lag for a turn, it looked like. It doesn't actually matter, because it's so difficult for Galvantula to throw on good timing into Greninja anyways, and you need to throw on good timing in order to win this matchup in the 1-shield scenario. Greninja actually can win the 1-shield scenario against Galvantula. As we shield up the lunge, we make it to a Hydro Cannon, we make it to a Night Slash as well. There's still 1 Volt Switch away from the next one, so they shield this, and we make it to yet another Night Slash onto the Galvantula. If they let this go, we win the 1-shield scenario, which is absolutely amazing. They do shield it up. I could swap out to not give them this farm, but I don't want to swap out and get debuffed onto a Pokemon that's switch locked, so I'm gonna let them farm me down, then bring in the Giratina, take the lunch, farm them down, and then I'm gonna look to swap out afterwards, if it makes sense. It is an Obstagoon, makes a lot of sense to swap out. We get in 1 Wig Attacks advantage on the Golisopod, meaning we can just about get to the Blast Burn. At the same time as they get to the Liquidation, we go straight for the Blast Burn, 1-shots to Golisopod, and the opponent concedes the match. Next game, good lead, into a Steelix, and they swap into a Tentacruel. If we swap into Charizard, they will outpace to the Sludge Bomb before we get to a Blast Burn, meaning we will have to give up a shield in order to keep switch advantage, which we of course absolutely have to do. Giratina is a lot better of a counter to Tentacruel, but also if we leave Giratina with too much health, the Steelix can get a very big farm on Giratina and come out with energy, which we really don't want, because the matchup between Greninja and Steelix is not that dominant. So I want this Tentacruel to get to another move, which is why I stopped tapping here. I want them to get to another move. They go for the Sludge Bomb, which does more damage than a Mud Bomb, and then we're gonna let them get a few more counters in to leave our Giratina as low as possible. This means we're only gonna get off 1 Shadow Sneak, but the Shadow Sneak damage is negligible into Steelix, and the fact that they only get in 1 Dragon Tail's worth of energy is a lot more valuable, as they bring in a Poliwrath, a second counter user. They will be able to make it to an Ice Punch after 6. We absolutely have to make sure that this Poliwrath doesn't get aligned onto what's it called, Greninja, as we go for the Dragon Claw on CMP. The reason I went for the CMP here is because a Dragon Claw only does about 29%, and I don't think if I'd gone for it one turn before the CMP that it would have been taken out, the Poliwrath. And also, if they shield up the first Dragon Claw, they won't be able to make it to a third Ice Punch, so we can just farm them all the way down, come out with almost 2 Blast Burns, throw the first Blast Burn into the Steelix. They know their only win con is to let it go because they need it to be a bait. We fully send the Blast Burn, it almost one-shots them, and that is a very good game. Next game, into another Golisopod. I played a little bit differently this time. I farm up to a Hydro Cannon, then bring in Giratina, and my opponent plays this really, really well. If you have an absolute wall to the save swap of the opponent, as in something that is just not afraid of the save swap at all, which Steelix has a really, really good matchup, you can stay in with your lead to just farm up energy before swapping out, which can give you an advantage later on, because you really don't need to swap out immediately here. So that energy in Golisopod can be very valuable for my opponent. So very well played, as we're just gonna start throwing these Shadow Sneaks. This is the disadvantage, I guess, of using Giratina as a save swap in this meta. If they have a Steelix, the game is really, really gonna be difficult. They can farm us all the way down, but because we loaded up to a Hydro Cannon in the beginning, we can throw this Hydro Cannon on the CMP. They have a lot of energy, but they have to expend the shield in order to get that energy off. I'm expecting they're gonna bring in the Golisopod afterwards, but I don't really want to bring in my Charizard onto a loaded Golisopod, so I want them to throw some energy into Greninja beforehand, hoping they don't have excess. So they actually go for the Liquidation, which no matter which moveset you run is not the correct move, and then they go for the Aerial Ace afterwards. Maybe they went for the boost chance or the debuff chance with the Liquidation. We bring in the Charizard after taking a lot of energy on the Greninja. They can make it to a Liquidation, which we have to shield up in the back. It's a Shadow, or it's a regular Alolan Sandslash. We go for the Dragon Claw bait. This is always a bait that makes my stomach turn, as they make it to an Ice Punch before we can make it to the Blast Burn. We can go for the Blast Burn. If we go for the bait here, we won't be able to make it to the Blast Burn regardless, before they make it to an Ice Punch. But by going for the Dragon Claw, we force the Alolan Sandslash to throw energy earlier, as in they can't overfarm. And they actually decide to not overfarm at all. They could have overfarmed a little bit, but now because they have no energy on the Alolan Sandslash, we will be able to make it to 2 Liquidations before they make it to a move, meaning we will be able to take them out before they can make it to a move, because 2 Liquidations are enough. They're trying to catch on Golisopod. We hold on to the energy, go for a Night Slash. They get in 4 Shadow Claws worth of energy. So they have to go for this Night Slash immediately in order to take them out before they get off their move. And this just means that the Alolan Sandslash, unfortunately, will make it to an Ice Punch before we can make it to another move. That was a very tough team competition, but we almost came back. Very, very good game. Next game, lead into a Armored Mewtwo, I guess. They swap into a Tentacruel. This is also a bit of a core breaker, especially if they have Blizzard for the Giratina. But Giratina, as I say, can take a Blizzard from Tentacruel. So I'm just gonna let the first one go. Usually if they have Blizzard, I feel like you go straight for it. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. So if they don't go for the Blizzard, they usually don't have it. In my experience, I feel like if you go for it, it's a surprise enough nuke. So what I do here is I just kind of assume they don't have Blizzard afterwards. And I overfarm, I don't get off my energy, and then they actually have Blizzard, and it's absolutely terrible. We can bring in the Greninja afterwards, go for the Night Slash. This won't take out the Tentacruel, but it will put them into a range where we can farm them down afterwards. And because they have Scald and Blizzard, we know we completely walled them, so we can take a move from this Tentacruel and then farm them all the way down. And potentially they are ABA weak to Greninja, because a lot of teams are. They bring in a Shadow Gliscor afterwards. We go for the bait, which I don't really like this play, but we go for the Night Slash. And then we get the boost. Once again, Greninja just keeps getting boost. We make it to the Hydro Cannon as well to grab the second shield from the Shadow Gliscor. We make it to the third Hydro Cannon as well. And this will, of course, boost it from a Greninja. One-shot the Shadow Gliscor. They bring in the Shadow Mewtwo afterwards. We bring in the Charizard and they concede the match. Very good game. Next game, good lead into a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Both of these need two moves in order to take out the opposing Pokemon, but Greninja is just a lot faster to get to these Hydro Cannons, so we can't go for a Hydro Cannon to do big damage onto the Alolan Sandslash. I think this might be the game where I decide to shoot, because I know this opponent. This is a streamer that I watch a lot. I know that he likes to use a very specific team a lot. I wasn't stream sniping him or anything like that. He wasn't streaming when this game was on. I've just seen him use this team a lot, and I lurk in his channel all the time. He might be watching this video as well. Hello if you are. I knew your team, that's why I played it this way. So basically he has a Charizard in the back, so energy on Greninja is just going to be absolutely crucial, which is why I overfarmed so much with Greninja and then brought in the Giratina on the Golisopod when they brought it in. So we can make it to a Dragon Claw. I just want energy on my Greninja, because Greninja with an energy advantage should be able to just sweep the back line after the Golisopod is gone. I don't know if they miscounted or just let me get to this Dragon Claw because they want to farm me down afterwards, but I'm not going to let them do that. I'm just going to look into the top right hand corner. It is the Charizard that I'm expecting, so we're bringing the Greninja, we make it to the first Hydro Cannon. We had so much energy on Greninja. They make it to 4 wing attacks on the Charizard, so they're 1 away from the Dragon Claw. They can make it to a Dragon Claw. It's 5 for the first, 4 for the second, so they should be 8 turns away from the next one. We are 6 turns away from 2 Hydro Cannons, so we can do 1 more Water Shuriken, go for the second Hydro Cannon, grab the second shield from Charizard, outpace the Charizard to another Hydro Cannon, and this will of course take out the Charizard. This Shadow Alolan Sandslash did throw this energy earlier, so they are dry. We would be able to outpace them. The opponent concedes the match. Next game, Nightmare lead into a Toxicroak. We swap into Giratina, and the opponent swaps into a Steelix. This is another situation where if I were my opponent, I would probably just stay in with Toxicroak to do some more counters to get energy on Toxicroak basically for free, and then bring in the Steelix afterwards, because you really don't need to bring the Steelix in immediately because it's just such a dominant matchup for Steelix. But now they will be able to go for 1 Breaking Swipe and then farm Giratina all the way down afterwards, and this is really bad because we don't have any energy on the Greninja. We make it to another Shadow Sneak. I'm looking at the health because it's a Shadow Steelix. We have done a little bit more damage. I think if I can call this move correctly, and I'm really expecting the Earthquake, we can farm them all the way down. And because it was a Toxicroak lead, I'm expecting them to stay in because, well, they want to keep switch advantage to get Toxicroak onto the Greninja. And then if we can farm down the Steelix, we can threaten the Toxicroak with Hydro Cannons because it's a very frail Pokemon. But they actually swap out to Double because they have 2 counters to Greninja. I'm thinking the Steelix is almost gone, so this is the best matchup that Greninja will see for the rest of the game. That's why I'm staying in with Greninja, and then I'm gonna save the Charizard for the Toxicroak later. They can make it to another Body Slam here before we make it to the Hydro Cannon. Perfect overfarm by the opponent, very well played. We bring in the Charizard. I just have to call that they don't have Wild Charge and let this go, because if I shield this up, they can bring in the Toxicroak afterwards and then make it to a Sludge Bomb. So we no shield it, and then we overfarm, and then we have to shield the second one up, but now we have enough energy to potentially outpace the Toxicroak if they bring it in. They did do 1 counter before swapping into Steelix, so they should be 5 away from the Mud Bomb, so we can go 4 up to the Blast Beam plus the Dragon Claw, but Toxicroak usually wins CMP, but I'm running a pretty attack weighted Charizard, so we do actually get the CMP with the Blast Burn, take out the Toxicroak. They bring back in the Steelix. We really need them to not get new mechanic here so that the Dragon Tail doesn't register. But as we take out the Steelix, we realize that the Dragon Tail did register, and the double kicks down Charizard, and that is another good game. Next game, well, you might think that we're weak to Fairy. We are. Charm users are really not fun, but this is actually not a bad matchup for Greninja into Clefable. They need to bait twice, and also have me not bait at all in order to win the 2-shield scenario. That is how good Greninja actually is in this meta. As they go for the first bait, of course, and I'm a little bit too afraid of going for the bait, because if they call a Night Slash, it would just be terrible. So we go for the Hydro Cannon, they shield it up, and then they can make it to another move. I don't want to throw in bad timing, so I do overfarm, which kind of makes it obvious that I'm gonna shield, I think. So they can go for another bait, and then we can do 1 more Warrior Shuriken, then go for another Hydro Cannon. We are 3 turns away from the next Hydro Cannon, they're 2 turns away from the Moonblast. So they will outpace, we wait a turn, catch the move onto Charizard, save the Greninja for later, thinking that if they lead a Fairy type, they're probably strong against Charizard in the back, so we don't really care about the Charizard. They bring in a Swampert, I go for the Blast Burn. I couldn't maybe realize that they were gonna go for the move right before we made it to the Blast Burn, and then go for the Dragon Claw instead to get some chip damage, and yeah, put them energy dry afterwards. But they are energy dry, and we bring in the Giratina because the Greninja we won't get a lot of use out of the Greninja because it is in Hydro Cannon range. So we can make it to a Dragon Claw, but after landing this Dragon Claw, I realize another Dragon Claw is not enough, and we have to throw it before they make it to the Earthquake. This won't take out the Swampert. I really thought I had a Night Slash banked on Greninja, but we're just like 2 energy or something short of the Night Slash. So instead of getting the Night Slash off on CMP, which Greninja would have won, they just take out Greninja with an Earthquake. We do preserve the Giratina, but Giratina, if there's one thing it is lacking, it's closing power. as they bring in Gliscor, and they just, yeah, we concede the match. That was the last battle for today. Overall, I really like this team. Greninja and Charizard are a ton of fun to use, and Giratina functions very well as a sponge. This, however, is not the most balanced team in the world. There are a few core breakers to it, and also I did have a couple of games where I just got completely RPS led into a fighting type, and they had a response to both of my back two in the back, and I didn't really want to showcase those games, just know that they were there. I did go positive with the team, but not crazy positive, gained about 40-50 elo, something like that. Other than that, this is for the Psychic Cup. Fun fact of the day, Malamar beats Galarian Rapidash in the Zero Shield scenario if Galarian's Rapidash doesn't go straight Mega Horn, and I don't think Galarian Rapidash even wants to run Mega Horn in the Psychic Cup because of this Galarian Slowbro, Slowking, and also Victini, so I think you want high horsepower, meaning Malamar might actually be a very good safe swap unless there are too many Shadow Gardevoirs. Other than that, if you like the video, remember to leave a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.